Hey, everybody, it's Kelly Williams with The Kelly Williams Show and Your Home TV. And I am so excited because in just a moment, I'm going to interview the amazing Gregg Ficery, the author of Gridiron Legacy, Pro Football's Missing Origin Story. And it's going to be very cool. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be right back after this commercial break from our sponsor.
Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events wants you to come party with us in 2024. Mark your calendar for Saturday, May 4th, because we're calling all Star Wars fans with a costume contest and an awesome Star Wars prize. Then on Saturday, August 10th, it's a Hollywood Night of Dreams with music, games, contests, and surprises. Both parties will be at the beautiful South Shore Harbor Resort with amazing food, fun activities, live entertainment, and a cash bar, plus some additional surprises. Saturday, May 4th and Saturday, August 10th. Come party with us. SYCE. More than a yacht, it's serendipity.
All right.
Not thinking.
All right. Okay, guys. So we are back, and I am with Gregg Ficery, author of this incredible book. And I'm so excited because, first of all, Gregg, where are you from?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is, unbeknownst to most people, the birthplace of pro football.
Okay, so that's interesting because usually when you hear about the birthplace of football, you automatically think Canton.
Right. And
it's not.
No, they acknowledge they call themselves the cradle of pro football.
Ah.
And the subtlety there is that they give the nod to Pittsburgh as the birthplace where it started, and then it moved to Canton in its infancy.
Amazing. Okay, so first of all, hold up your book. I want people to see. Okay, so what was it that made you want to start writing this book? Because this is like thick. It's not like a 20-page. I'm going to write a book today about the origins of football. What was it that made you want to start writing this book?
The inspiration is the family lore story of my great-grandfather from Pittsburgh, a little town called Wilmerding, which was a Westinghouse industrial community. And Bob Shiring, my great-grandfather, was the greatest center of the pre-NFL era of pro football.
Wow.
People don't even know there was such a thing. So this book is really to honor the pioneers and founders of the game starting in the early 1890s in Pittsburgh.
Amazing. Okay, so something interesting. You've had several people be a part of this book that are incredible. First of all, who wrote your foreword in this book? Because that's pretty cool.
I was super honored to have Franco Harris.
Wow.
Love my story and offered to do the foreword.
Wow.
Just shortly before he passed away. So what an incredible honor. And the man just had a heart of gold, and he wrote the most thoughtful foreword. So I'm really pleased about it.
That's very cool. So give us a little bit about your background of the history of the origins of pro football and stuff, and why this was such a perfect fit for you to write this book.
So after college football started, shortly after the Civil War in 1869, Rutgers and Princeton played the first college football game. Adults wanted to keep playing and so there was amateur football for a while. And Pittsburgh was the center of it. They had a lot of amateur athletic clubs for men to play on the weekends, and eventually competition leads to rivalry, leads to somebody getting paid. So the first cash payment to a player in 1892, according to an accounting ledger that's in the Hall of Fame that they called the Birth Certificate of Pro Football, was $500 cash, which was a lot then.
A whole lot.
Was given to a Yale All-American, Pudge Heffelfinger, for the Allegheny Athletic Association to help them beat the Pittsburgh Athletic Club.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was the start of pro football.
That is crazy. And that's when they wore those like leather.
Maybe even before.
So
or
they
no
didn't
helmet.
really have any helmets. And then it just became these leather things you put on your head. I'm just going. They'd be amazed today on all the technology and everything that's in all this equipment.
I don't know if it helps much.
So one really great thing, tell us about your great-grandfather.
So he got into the mix a few years later. The earliest I can tell is he started playing about 1897 for a couple little amateur teams. And before you know it, a guy with an 8th grade education who had to work to help his family was playing on the world championship team in Homestead, Pennsylvania in 1901.
Oh my goodness. I love that. That is amazing. Now, when you were doing research and doing this book, you found the very first pro football championship trophies.
Right.
That's insane. I mean, some people don't even know what those look like or even they even existed.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So in my research journey, I had seen a picture in a 1901 Pittsburgh newspaper of the
Yeah.
trophy, this beautiful sterling silver bowl that looked like the top of the Stanley Cup, from this Homestead, Pennsylvania team. And eventually one thing leads to another, and I figure out where the building was in Homestead, the club that he played out of. And I went there, and they didn't even know about their own history and sponsoring this team. They loved other history of theirs. And so I ask a lot of questions, as I always do. I end up in their storage closet,
Oh my goodness.
and there was the trophy on the top shelf gathering dust. And I'm like,
Oh
that's
my
it.
gosh.
And they said, not possible. And I said, possible. And we dusted it off.
Wow.
Long story short, it's now in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
That is insane. You did that.
did that.
How cool is that?
It's my
I
legacy.
found that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So holding that was like my heart was busting through my chest.
Well, I mean, I can't even imagine. That's a really big deal. What has your family thought about all of this research and this adventure that you have gone through, looking through all this history and everything you've been finding and writing? That's all gone into this book. It's very exciting.
They love it. They all have known little bits and pieces, but none of
Yeah.
us ever had time or resources to like do the work and
Yeah.
make it happen. And so the best part of it was after Pittsburgh, pro football moved to Ohio, and my great-grandfather played for the Massillon Tigers against the Canton Bulldogs.
Oh my goodness.
And the Massillon High School is still called the Massillon Tigers because of this.
What?
And the Canton High School is still called the Canton Bulldogs because of that.
I love that.
And so they invited me to speak to their school 2 years ago, right before the big rivalry game,
No.
and tell them their whole history. And all of my family came from all over the country,
Oh
and
my-
we brought them up on stage,
wow.
and we lived the tradition.
That is incredible. And okay, so I want to ask you, how long was pro football in Pittsburgh before it moved to Canton?
10 years. They tried.
I
and-
didn't realize
and
it was
no,
that long.
no team ever made $1 in profit. So
Yeah.
they just said, this isn't going to work.
Oh wow.
So they quit, and they merged, and they, combined and folded eventually in 1902.
Yeah.
But the Massillon community said, ooh, this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's get Bob Shiring and 3 of his teammates to come out here and help whoop up on Canton and Akron and
Wow.
all these other teams. So they did. And then all the best players in the country came to Ohio for the next 3-4 years to play the best football anybody had ever seen. And just as it was becoming national news for the first time, it ended in a infamous scandal that nobody ever knew what happened. There were allegations of bribery and game fixing.
Oh gosh.
And I had heard from my grandmother that a gambler offered my great-grandfather a bribe to get his teammates to lose the world championship game on purpose.
Wow.
And he wouldn't do it. And
Good
so he
for
was
your
honored
granddad.
for being a good man and sort of a hero to protect the integrity and legacy of the game.
Wow.
But still, people suspected that there was something amiss, and it all died after that year for about 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
Because people didn't trust that it was, on the up and up.
Yeah.
And then Jim Thorpe, the world's greatest athlete,
Yeah.
was recruited to come back to Canton and start pro football again.
Wow.
And that's why he's honored in the Hall of Fame as the icon of pro football.
Oh my
And the
goodness.
NFL was formed after a few short years in 1920 with him as the first commissioner of the National Football League.
Incredible. How many teams were in that competition, like the first 5 and 6 years of it?
So between 1915 and 1920, when all of a sudden there were 14 pro teams all over the Midwest, not just Ohio. And they realized that they needed some structure because people were switching teams week to week. College players were coming and going.
Oh,
They said, we need
gosh.
some rules.
Yes.
So let's get
Yeah.
together.
That would be smart.
Yeah. And one of the owners owned a car dealership in Canton. So they met at his car dealership.
Yeah.
The Hupmobile. Ralph Hayes was his name. Hay. And the 14 team owners formed. It was first called the American Pro Football Association, detail,
yeah.
but 2 years later they called it the NFL.
Yes.
So
amazing. That is so cool. What do you hope people get out of reading your book? Because it's beautiful.
I want to spread the word that I somehow inherited
Yeah.
about where and how pro football started. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a miracle to me that nobody players in the Hall of Fame don't know why it's there.
No.
And how pro football started. So they need to be honored and recognized.
Yeah.
And I'm working with the Hall of Fame and trying to get them to do an exhibit to at least to honor a group of them. They say they can't put them all in, but they want to do something. That's their job.
Absolutely.
It's a museum, you know?
Yeah. It's amazing. So the cover of the book has a team on it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about this picture.
So this is the Massillon Tigers World Championship team from 1906.
Incredible.
The key pivotal year in which so much happened.
Yeah.
It might make it for a great movie. We might have a script written.
Yeah, you might.
It's a miniseries. It's coming.
I love it.
So in 1905, believe it or not, 20-some people died from football injuries.
Well, I literally was going to ask you, back then when you tell me, they didn't wear equipment, they didn't wear any of this stuff for head injury. That had to be something that, people really they don't talk about now, but that had to be very common.
Not at the professional level because they kind of knew what they were doing, but amateur college and high school kids were dying from broken necks and broken backs.
Horrible.
And concussed head injuries.
Wow.
So President Teddy Roosevelt said, I love masculine Christianity, he called it, and the Rough Riders and all this stuff in the middle. But he said, I don't want to ban football, but we need to fix it.
Oh, wow.
So he helped form a committee with the 3 Ivy League presidents, Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, who were the best teams at the time.
Oh, yeah.
John Heisman and a couple other luminaries of the game. And they formed a committee that later became the NCAA that changed rules to help the game progress and become safer, including the forward pass in 1906. My great-grandfather snapped the ball for the first forward pass in a professional game.
No, that is awesome as heck.
Yeah.
So you said he snapped the ball, so he was the center?
He was the center.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Cool.
So the first time they had a forward pass, your grandpa was the center that snapped it. I love that. I love that. That is very cool. Okay, so I want to know, how can people order your book? Because this is something you want to get your hands on, and he will actually autograph it for you.
I will.
Which he did for me just a minute ago, my copy. But this is something that people just need to have. I think they would really enjoy seeing the photos and reading this history, especially if you're a history buff.
Over 300 images in the book, many from my great-grandfather's personal collection.
I was just going to ask you, so where did you get them? So your grandfather had a lot of them?
Yep, great-grandfather. When my grandmother died in 2007, I cleaned out the house and I found this holy grail sort of pro football, the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you will. I took them to the Hall of Fame and they're like, whoa, do the book.
Oh my, I was going to say, this is amazing. So people have to be very excited about this book.
It's catching on.
There's nothing like it. I mean, I love finding out history about things, but I don't know tons of history about football, and these
don't
things
feel
that
bad.
you were
Nobody
telling,
does.
No, and you don't hear anything. This is very exciting.
I think
that you have accomplished this
for the pro football community.
Yeah,
in the
amazing.
World. So, to your question, I will go to gridironlegacy.com and order, and I will send you a signed copy. But it's also available unsigned at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the other usual places.
Oh, my gosh. Greg, I'm so excited
Thanks
you got to
me,
sit
Kelly.
down with us today and visit about your amazing book, Gridiron Legacy, Pro Football's Missing Origin Story. Order it today, guys. You're going to absolutely love it. What a great gift for people in your life. This is
man
absolutely
cave,
wonderful.
The office for the guy that has everything.
That's right. This is really your sports enthusiast, your football person. This is the gift to get them. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more interviews on the Kelly Williams Show right here on Your Home TV. We're live in Las Vegas on Radio Row for Super Bowl week. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.